Hello viewers, I'm your host Chandrakala Chaudhary with another episode of South Asia Focus. Let's begin the show with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Manila, where he attended the 15th ASEAN-India Summit and the 12th East Asia Summit. Besides holding bilateral talks with various world leaders, Modi called on the member nations to join hands in the fight against the menace of terrorism. A report.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, along with other leaders of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations ASEAN and its dialogue partners, recently attended the 15th ASEAN-India Summit in Manila. Apart from the 10 ASEAN member states, Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand and Vietnam, East Asia Summit includes India, China, Japan, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand, the United States and Russia. Counter-terrorism was the key issue discussed in the Manila meeting, which brought together leaders from 21 nations who have been battling the scourge of terrorism in one way or the other in their respective territories. Modi, who has been pitching for greater cooperation and economic ties within the grouping, pledged to cooperate with India's Southeast Asian neighbors to fight the rise of terrorism.
भारत की एक्ट ईस्ट पॉलिसी आसियान को ध्यान में रखकर ही बनाई गई है और इंडो पैसिफिक रीजन के क्षेत्रीय सुरक्षा परिदृश्य में इस संगठन का महत्व बहुत ही स्पष्ट है। हमने अपने अपने देशों में आतंकवाद तथा उग्रवाद से कड़ा संघर्ष किया है। अब समय आ गया है जब हम इस महत्वपूर्ण विषय पर आपसी सहयोग बढ़ाकर इस चुनौती का मिलजुल करके सामना भी करें और समाधान निकालें।
Trade and investment and mutual cooperation in security and defense between India and ASEAN countries have grown in the recent years. The trade between India and ASEAN stood at $71 billion in 2016-17, 10.85% of India's total trade with the world. Modi also held bilateral talks with world leaders on the sidelines of the summit. He met his counterparts from Japan, Australia, Vietnam, New Zealand and Sultan of Brunei. The meetings aimed at deepening bilateral cooperation saw discussions spanning across areas of trade and investment, renewable energy, culture and people-to-people contacts. US President Donald Trump, who was meeting Modi for the fourth time, appreciated the initiatives of the Indian government in the last couple of years.
He's become a friend of ours and a great gentleman doing a fantastic job in bringing around lots of factions in India, bringing them all together. That's what I hear, and that's good news. And it really is. It's a lot of good reports coming out of India, so I want to congratulate you. But it's an honor to be with you.
Modi said India and the US were working for the future interests of Asia and the humanity as a whole.
भारत और अमेरिका के संबंध सिर्फ भारत और अमेरिका के हितों से ऊपर उठ करके हम साथ मिलकर एशिया की भविष्य के लिए मिलकर के काम कर सकते हैं। विश्व में मानव जात के लिए हम क्या भला से काम कर सकते हैं। ऐसे अनेक विषयों पर हम मिलकर के चल रहे हैं।
The East Asia Summit is the premier leaders-led forum in the Indo-Pacific. Since its inception in 2005, it has played a significant role in the strategic, geopolitical and economic evolution of East Asia. Indo-Pacific has grown in usage across diplomatic and security circles in Australia, India and Japan in recent years, with USA joining in this year.
Indo-Pacific is shorthand for a broader and democratic region in the place of the Asia-Pacific, which some believe places China too firmly at the center. We are now joined by Anil Trigunayar, a former diplomat and an expert on India's foreign policy, to talk more about the summit. Mr. Trigunayar, how do you see the recently held ASEAN-India and East Asia Summit, and what according to you are the major takeaways for India from this summit?
You see, as you are aware, India and ASEAN are geographically, historically and civilizationally have been very, very close. And in the past 25 years that India and ASEAN have had established the relations, and this year we are celebrating the 25th anniversary of the India-ASEAN relations. And in this Asian century, India's Act East policy, which has been propounded by Prime Minister Modi in 2014 when he was in Myanmar, in the capital of Myanmar, the last summit where it was held, and there he pronounced that we will have not only Look East policy that was there until then since 1992, but we will be having a policy which is Act East policy. Therefore, since then there have been specific initiatives that have been taken to promote trade, investment, security architecture, and cooperation in counter-terrorism, cooperation in maritime areas and aviation sector, and culturally they have been brought very close. We have had car rallies, we have increased connectivity between the two countries, and so in the current summit also this was the main theme, that how to harness our mutual complementarities to the best advantage of our people, of the region, and to confront any challenges that come across in the wake of trade and tourism or connectivity that could happen.
Well, terrorism was a key issue discussed during the summit. Do you think India has been successful in bringing major countries of the world on same table of counter-terrorism?
Yes, terrorism, we have been inflicted by terrorism or afflicted by it for a very long time now. The world was not understanding the gravity of it until 9/11 happened in the US. But now the rest of the world understands that terrorism is the biggest menace that needs to be uprooted, and it cannot be done by one country alone. The countries of Southeast Asia have also suffered, the US has suffered, the China has suffered, Russia has suffered. So all the countries which were there in the East Asia Summit also, terrorism is something which is a very key issue which is confronting and staring all of us in the face, and therefore I believe that there was a general consensus that we have to have a joint effort. Prime Minister Modi obviously made it very clear that we have all been suffering with it, but this is the time that we need to jointly find ways to confront it, to mitigate it, and to somehow uproot it forever.
Thank you, Mr. Trigunayat. Moving on, another story of violence and bloodshed added to the history of Afghanistan when it was attacked by a suicide bomber in the capital city, Kabul. A report. In what turns out to be latest in the wave of violence in Afghanistan, which has already killed thousands of civilians this year, a suicide bomber blew himself near a political gathering in Kabul, killing at least 10 and wounding dozen others. The suicide bomber targeted the Khair Khana, where a number of high-ranking officials of political party Jamaat-e-Islami had gathered. According to the information revealed by the police officials of the country, suicide bomber wanted to get inside a wedding hall where the political gathering was taking place, but was stopped by police at the checkpoint where he detonated his suicide vest. Afghanistan has been hit by a spree of militant attacks in last few months, targeting the civil and security installations and the political class of the country, with Islamic State and Taliban doing most of the damage. Both Islamic State and Taliban have been equally dangerous. However, Taliban tends to target civilians lesser than the Islamic State. Afghan security forces have struggled to combat the Taliban and other insurgents since the US and NATO shifted to a counter-terrorism and support role at the end of 2014. The Taliban have seized a number of districts across the country, and both groups have carried out major attacks. Both the Taliban and ISIS affiliate, which is largely made up of disgruntled former Taliban fighters, are at war with the government. Both groups want to impose a harsh version of Islamic law on Afghanistan, but they are fiercely divided over leadership, tactics and ideology, and have clashed on a number of occasions. Well, situation in most of the provinces of Afghanistan continues to remain grim. However, there are some stories of hope and contentment too arising from the same territory, the war-torn country where opium production still tops charts of country's export market. Saffron production has emerged as an attractive alternative. Although the government still has big challenges ahead, a significant rise in the saffron cultivation has given a new ray of hope to the nation. A report. Afghan farmers and traders in the western city of Herat are hoping that saffron cultivation can help wean them off their addiction to opium production. Government of Afghanistan has taken various initiatives in order to halt the production of the poppies. However, the success still seems far as the drug networks, including those run by the insurgent Taliban, are still thriving. There are numerous stories of hope as well, which have motivated the government to boost the spices cultivation. Growing saffron has completely transformed the life of 65-year-old Muhammad Ibrahim's life, who is now encouraging others to take up cultivation of the spice.
پیام از اینا که بعد خودم بعد به بندم بعد اونا که به درد نمیخوره این خیلی کشت ازی از کوگنا را خیلی زیادتر حاصل داره اگه کسی بتونه و بدونه که بدونم خیلی بیتره خیلی بیتره.
Saffron is an expensive spice, selling for as much as $1,500 per kilogram and has long been seen as an alternative crop to opium poppies for poor farmers. The cultivation of the spice has also created job opportunities for hundreds of women in Herat. Dozens of women harvest the purple flower in Karok district.
بیشتر از این خانم‌ها این میتونه بسیار مفید باشه و این میتونه از طریق از این کار ما میتونیم برای خانواده خوب اثبات برسونیم و بفهمونیم که ما هم در جامعه میتونیم به کار مثلا به چیزی ما سهم بگیریم سعیم باشیم و از طریق ما میتونیم ما تمام احتیاجات خود رفع کنیم.
Head of Afghanistan Saffron Federation Bashir Ahmad Rashidi says that some 400 women currently work on saffron fields across Herat province. Some full-time, others are paid based on the amount they gather during harvest season.
و این سال هم به مثل سال گذشته مشوقین بسیار زیادی داشتن مخصوصا در قسمت کشت زعفران که به اون منوال برآورد اجمالی که صورت گرفته ما بالغ بر 3,000 هکتار فعلا اراضی زیر کشت زعفران در ایراد دارند و محصول امسال 8 تن برآورد شده که امیدوارم از 8 تن هم بیشتر باشه کمتر نمیشه.
Saffron cultivation began in what is now Afghanistan at least 2,000 years ago. It is well suited to the dry climate. Cultivating the crop is heavily labor intensive but requires little sophisticated machinery or capital. Saffron cultivation is a story of success for Afghanistan. However, there are challenges ahead as Afghan market still faces a fierce competition from neighboring Iran. Moving on, we now talk about the struggle of people of Balochistan province in Pakistan. A large number of Baloch political activists and intellectuals have sacrificed their lives to fulfill their demand for free Balochistan. Every year, they observe Baloch Matyrs Day to remember the departed souls. We have a report.
Condemning Pakistan's oppression of Baloch people, these protesters in Canada, Vancouver City, appealed the international community to extend support for an independent and secular Balochistan. To mark November the 13th as Baloch Matyrs Day, they highlighted the atrocities carried out by Pakistani military on their people and how China and Pakistan are jointly exploiting Balochistan's resources.
Pakistani government is killing, raping, burning our homes, torturing our people, bombing on civil population, and Pakistan is occupying our land and selling it to China for CPAC. With the coming of CPAC, the project that is so-called a development project is basically an effort of Pakistani military elite and the Chinese military elite to do a business, to grab our resources.
In Germany, the Free Balochistan movement workers held a program in Dortmund city and talked about Pakistani brutalities in the restive province. They also urged the international community to take notice of Pakistani crimes against the Baloch nation.
Pakistan is using tyranny and inhumane behavior to try to crush our strength and our nation. Let's make this clear. Very, very clear. Pakistan is not only an enemy to Balochistan, but an enemy to the whole world. Pakistan is bringing barbarity and violence throughout the whole region and more so globally.
A large number of political activists, intellectuals, students, women and children are missing from Balochistan. They are allegedly kidnapped by Pakistan's secret services agencies. Many of these victims were killed and the mutilated bodies were thrown at isolated places in Balochistan.
Pakistan continues to employ more brutal policies, including enforced disappearance, kill and drown, and abducting women and children. Baloch nation is, however, admitted to regain the independence until the day of victory.
The Balochs, who have never accepted being part of Pakistan, have for long accused successive governments in Pakistan of exploiting the rich natural resources of the region and leaving them deprived from basic human rights.
The human rights situation in Balochistan is disturbing. We are now joined by Claudia Heidelberg, a German activist and writer who is working for the Baloch cause. Ms. Claudia, you have long been working over the issues of Baloch and Balochistan. What is your assessment of the situation?
The situation is becoming more and more worse because of the implementation of CPEC. I heard about all deprived nations of Pakistan, not only about Balochistan, that the abductions are rising up, the tortures, and that beside the 50 miles beside both CPEC, they are cleansing the villages, they are killing people, coming by jets, burning the houses, killing everything what is alive, also animals. And so it's, the situation is really alarming.
Thank you, Ms. Claudia. Now let's move to Bangladesh, where thousands of Rohingya refugees have taken shelter following a massive counter-offensive by the security forces of Myanmar. With the spectre of child trafficking looming large, international agencies and enthusiastic civilians are working hard to keep any such possibilities at bay. A report.
Makeshift booth in Bangladesh's Kutpalong refugee camp, with a wooden table and a mic, is helping protect Rohingya children from traffickers who are roaming the camps looking for easy prey. The Lost and Found information booth was set up 2 months ago by Nazir Ahmed, a refugee in the camp, and has already reunited some 1,800 lost children with their parents.
মানে তারা রিফিউজি যখন নতুন বর্মাতে এসে দেশারি তখন তারা লাইম বিদেশ তো বিদেশ হলে তারা রুটঘাট নসিনে গরবারি নসিনে এখন তো তারা গতু নেই দিলে প্রেসার করতে দিলে আজিদার গই আছে তো বাজার দায়ের দই তার দিলে আজিদার গই তো আরা এরিমে মানুষ শুধুন এটা আরা আনি দিয়ে পৌঁছবেন আর শুধুন রাস্তাঘাটে হাত আছে ইয়ান নতাকে ডরে তো এই কারণে আরা জিনিসন প্রতিদিন ডাক মারাত থাকি প্রতিদিন হুয়াত থাকি তখন আরা তো বিরক্ত এরিমে লাগে দে নয় বিরক্ত না লাগে তো আর তাকে বিরক্ত লাগে দিয়ে নদী শুধু কিভাবে ফোন তারা মা বাবার পৌঁছে দিতে যাম কিভাবে তারা মা বাবা ফোন নিবলে আইব তো ইয়ান আর তো সর্বদা চিন্তা থাকে যখন তারা ফেরত দিতে পারি তখন আর তো খুশি লাগে
Thousands of children have, at some point, been separated from their families amid the chaos, and one such child was found by Muhammad Khan, and he immediately brought him to Ahmed's booth.
Rasamade handa to foy or hoikatuan hole, ikeda hide got to Asian hoiki gil, the lot on Nava, Lona Barrion, and doesn't more handed then to any other bata Hawaii, Hawaii body on Lugi, Lujavada, for what I give a hundred and that divide I do.
6 out of 10 of the refugees arriving in Bangladesh camps are children, making the camps a fertile hunting ground for traffickers. In order to ensure that the child is claimed by his or her parents and not a trafficker, Ahmed does not disclose a child's name when he makes the announcement. To claim a child, a parent must tell the child's name correctly, and the child must confirm that the adult is indeed his or her parent. Dialora is one of the few lucky parents who were reunited with their children courtesy Ahmed's booth. The United Nations says trafficking networks already exist in southern Bangladesh's sprawling camps, which have been overwhelmed with the arrival of more than 600,000 Rohingya who have fled Myanmar over the last 2 months.
And this is a major risk at the moment that we enter in this kind of trafficking that could be domestic work for minor girls within the big cities. There is a big risk, especially for girls, to be involved in domestic work within the national community of the country, because they are cheaper labor, and this kind of networks are existing.
Meanwhile, the United Nations Security Council UNSC in a statement expressed concern over the human rights violations and abuses in Rakhine State and urged Myanmar to ensure no further use of excessive military force.
Myanmar, which had in the past indicated its willingness to take back verified refugees, maintains that this crisis can only be resolved through bilateral dialogue, and interference by a third party will only damage the process. Moving on, Nepal shares its history of rich traditions and cultures with India and has been jointly working with its neighbour to further strengthen relations. Recently, a fashion show was organised in the backdrop of the India Nepal Folk Crafts Festival. Have a look. Temperature soared as the models wearing khadi clothes sashayed down the ramp in the capital city of Nepal, Kathmandu. The fashion show, which was organized by South Asia Foundation, was a blend of modern exuberance and cultural nuances on fabric of khadi. Apart from this, lively music resonated the venue as the models walked down the ramp in stunning traditional outfits with embellishments, embroidery and gold applique work.
It stood for self-reliance. It stood for what India's legacy was all about, and it has made us extremely proud. Today we are absolutely delighted that khadi has become a household name worldwide, and people are finding new ways of bringing this tradition to the world in myriad fashions and other ways.
The fashion show, which showcased dresses made from khadi bearing ancient significance, drew the attention of the viewers.
First of all, highlight the khadi that creates large employment opportunity in South Asia that should be showcased in a glamorous form, and also bringing best of India and Nepal together.
Continuing the Gandhi legacy, designers of both India and Nepal tried their level best to keep up this khadi tradition. The Khadi fashion show also was a part of the ongoing India Nepal Folk Crafts Festival, which concluded on a high note. Nepal and India's relationship has flourished on the foundation of trust for hundreds of years. With that, we come to the end of this week's episode. See you next week. Goodbye and take care.